Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Biz, and this is my second game in the 2026 War of the Ring World Tournament. You can go see the earlier game on my channel. In this game, I am still playing Xxander. I spoke with them after the game, and they gave me a little help on pronunciation, so hopefully I'm doing that a little better. Another change I've made here is I increased the font sizes, so hopefully this shows up better on the screen. That's been an adjustment to me to learn just how big you got to get them for these videos to work. But here we are in game two. Game one was, it was a good game. Fairly standard though. You've probably seen Elven Pincers many times. I would hazard a guess though that you have not seen the things that are about to happen in game two before. So this should be pretty interesting. So without further ado, let's get into the game. I'm starting out as free people. As free people, I'm always kind of hoping to steal a win more so than um, viewing it as likely I'm going to win. Whereas Shadow, Shadow, you feel confident. Free people, you got to hang on. Free people is just a harder faction to win with. I get two starting cards. I get Ents. I don't love starting with Ents. Usually I like to get them later in the game, but this is a good Ent. And then Faramir's Rangers is a good starting card, so I'm pretty happy to have that. Let's see, they allocate an eye. I think allocating an eye is fine. We probably obsess too much in the community over 0 eye versus 1 eye. Um, Depending on your cards and even how you're feeling today, maybe you could do 1 eye and it's going to be okay. They roll this, very good roll for Shadow, and I roll 2 movement and 2 hybrids. I would like a Palantir to play Faramir's, but beyond that, that's a really nice roll. So let's see, I pass, they get Isengard, that makes a lot of sense. Try and put Saruman and Moria, joke about it, but no, he goes in Isengard, I'm moving the Fellowship, they miss, they're mustering Isengard. I move again, and I'm hit, and that's a dead Gandalf. Especially with Saruman on the table. I think Xxander did this in game 1 too, and I think it's the right call. Just, you want to get your 5th die out as soon as you can. So I get Strider on the table, and they play a New Powers Rising. So that's why they were mustering in Isengard. They're going for Rohan first. Rohan first is pretty fun. You don't see it a lot, but I think this is kind of the right situation to see it, right? You got New Powers Rising. You had those spare musters. Why not do it? Now, I would be a little tempted, especially because I have these hybrids. I'm able to reinforce Helm's Deep. I would be a little tempted to get Sauron and kind of do some setup moves before doing this. Save New Powers Rising for a Palantir. It might just be a little more efficient. At the same time, you want to get it going before Gandalf, so I get that too. What do? I hide the Fellowship. That's interesting. Maybe I could have avoided some trouble here by hybrid moving into Westamnet. I think maybe I just didn't anticipate they were going to go for this early, but it does make sense that they would. And that's exactly what they do. Or maybe, maybe I felt like I was happy for them to attack Rohan early. They're going to get a cheap Helm's Deep, but Edoras is going to build up and be a huge problem. And that can be a good situation for free people, so I don't always mind that. They're debating how to take casualties. They move everybody out, so they have a full 10 hit point army bearing down on Helm's Deep, and Saruman is all alone. Now I do hybrid moves, okay. And they attack Helm's Deep. So Rohan is close to war. Remember to move them down. Here's one thing. Saruman is all alone in Orthanc, and Gandalf is dead. So it's a pretty big risk for them to leave Saruman all alone like this. There's roughly a 50-50 chance I'm going to get Gandalf. And then, with me having drawn 2 cards, we're looking at, 1 in 12 of... No, not 1 in 12. 3 in 12 of me getting an Ent, so roughly 25%. So you could view that as like 1 in 8 chance of me being able to just kill Saruman next turn. It's turn 2. It's so early. I feel like playing against that 1 in 8 chance is probably the right call. This is a little risky, but I might not get it. So if you don't, then this sets up your attack in Rohan very nicely. Let's see. I get Gua here. That's a good card to get early. I like having Gua here and sending out companions from the Fellowship early. They can get to interesting places, and Kelborn's is a great card, so I can't complain about my cards so far. And I get Gandalf, and I have an Ent. So, immediately, I put Gandalf in Fangorn, and now they have the chance to muster in Orthanc. Just mustering an elite makes it a 50-50 chance that I'm going to kill Saruman, which is pretty good. Now, I could have 2 Ents, and then mustering an elite is a complete waste of time, but I think it's worth doing, but they just decide to attack Helm's Deep. You know, I guess if you're going to risk them, you're just committing to risking Saruman. It seems, to me, it seems a bit risky at this point. Because again, there's roughly a 1/3 chance. No, 25% chance, right? 3 out of 22? There's 3 cards in here. I've drawn 2. Yeah, I think that's a 1/3 chance that I've drawn an Ent at this point. So, it seems a bit risky to me. That's all I'm saying. But they attack, and they blow up Helm's Deep, and I get 2 hits back. Okay. Oh, they didn't take 2. Yeah, because that was Desperate Battle, wasn't it? Oh no, they rolled the 4, I rolled the 1. That they said 4, and I rolled 1. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I only dealt 1 hit. And I play my Ent, so of course I'm going to do it. So this is where the game has completely departed from normal reality, and Saruman's dead. Turn 2. That is a heavy blow to Shadow. I'm willing to sacrifice Saruman in the mid and late game. It's not that big a deal. But this early, losing your dice, and 3 people are already on 5, that stings. Yeah. I think that you probably could have avoided some trouble just by... What I probably would have done is left a regular behind and then mustered an elite when Gandalf showed up. And then, unless 3 people has 2 end cards, you're good. That seems like a reasonable bet. And then later, maybe you can voice the Saruman, get to 4 HP, and Gandalf isn't killing them. It slightly slows down your attack on Rohan. Maybe that's the difference between Rohan surviving and not. I don't know. But losing Saruman is obviously great for me. And what do? I play Gua here. That makes sense. I have Gandalf in Fangorn. So I can now play another character card, and I Gua here to send a Hobbit over to Evendim. Yeah, this is something I'll do sometimes. When you have the chance early before you hit Moria, most of the time there's not good places to separate companions. But if you put a Hobbit in Evendim or Tower Hills, he can easily activate either the Dwarves or the North with Fearfire Foes and Book of Mizarble. I obviously don't have either of those cards yet, but it's a long game. They already lost Saruman. They're nowhere close to due. And just having this guy here is a nice threat. So I think, given that it's either play this or nothing, I think this makes sense. I put him in Tower Hills. Doesn't really make a difference. they're sus. I think they think I probably already have it. I don't. I'll do this even when I don't have it. But, of course, the chance of me drawing it at some point is pretty high in time for it to be useful. They move out to west of Net and Moria. Okay, so they're preparing an attack on Lorien, and they're going to go deal with Rohan before it gets out of hand. I do this. I could muster an elite in Rohan, in Edoras. Maybe that's better. I like the regulars, because now they can't constrict me. They're going to have a hard time taking care of this problem. And they attack Edoras. They think about it, and they attack Edoras, and they get 0 hits. And I do my 3 dice in a weird way, but I have 3 dice, and I get 1 hit. So they send out 1 guy, and yeah, Rohan is an issue. That is a scary Rohan stack now. Um, and so this is why Rohan first carries such a risk. It's not a horrible plan in a lot of situations, but Edoras can just get out of control, and I put another elite down. Draw a foul thing, so they get a random. It's Legolas. He's dead. Yeah, okay. It's good. It's good foul thing. I would maybe save the foul thing for the Moria move. Um, but if you don't have another card to play, I kind of get it. It's probably better than drawing. And they get Sauron to war. Yeah, so because of the way everything worked out, they were unable to get the Witch King to replace Saruman. Um, so they're down a die now compared to last turn. They're going to be rolling 7 dice to my 5. Realistically, 6 dice to my 5 because they... Oh, they don't have to allocate an eye. I didn't move. But there's a decent chance I have more dice than them next turn, which would be crazy. And it might mean I can do stuff like move into Moria as my last action. So maybe that's further reason they should have. It's okay to play Foul Thing, but yeah, I mean it's nice to get the Witch King, but I get wanting to take care of Rohan. That attack didn't go great for them. It's still possible they can win this fight, but it's obviously going to be tricky. We go on to turn 3, and this has not gone, so I didn't move at all. I'm still stuck in Holland. I'm fortunate there's no rerolls on me. And I've already taken a little bit of beating with the Fellowship. I separated 1 corruption, Foul Thing got 2, I lost Gandalf to an eye. So corruption could be a real thing this game. I have to be a little wary. What do I pick up? Guards and Elven Rope. Okay, nothing bad about that. Yeah, I said don't forget 1 last die. I worked real hard for that death. They allocate an eye. That makes sense. They don't want me to waltz into Moria. And I get a crazy number of movement. It's really not what I want right now, in fact. I kind of want Musters to make Rohan a big problem. But instead I get all this movement. I can play Elven Rope. I might move companions around. We'll see. I'm obviously going to move the Fellowship. I don't want to get hit over Moria, but I think I probably should move right away. They could have character cards, but I really don't want them putting any rerolls on me. Yep, no time like the present. Let's move, and I get hit. And it's a reveal. Brutal, brutal. So I just take the corruption. At this point, I'm actually thinking I'm going to be pretty stingy with my randoms because I'm thinking I'm probably going to stop in Lorien. I have Celeborns, and I have Gandalf nearby, so he can join if you really want him to. And I feel a lot better about healing this game because they are kind of already starting to slow down. And I draw 3, and this time I random, and it's Mary, which is not what I wanted. That is the worst draw, arguably worse than Strider. Well, it's not worse than Strider. Right this turn, it's worse than Strider. So I take 2 more corruption, go up to 4. The good news is I'm out of Mortal Wound range, so there's that. But the Fellowship has been just hammered against 1 and 2 eyes. So, not what I want to see. They're moving like this, which is interesting. I guess they're going to go reinforce Rohan. Yeah. Rohan is probably too scary to just have this army deal with. Let's go clean it up. It does even further make me want to heal in Lorien. So, there's that. Let's see, what do? I just hide. They don't have a card. They move like this, so they're really containing Rohan. This is, yeah, I think this is good damage control. You can take care of Rohan and then swing back and have everybody deal with Lorien, or maybe go down to Minas Tirith. Oh, yeah, no, I'm having fun. I'm having fun here. Gandalf isn't needed in Fangorn anymore, so let's have him join the Rohirrim. I'm going to turn off any leadership they have. It's going to take a lot of actions for them to do anything to me. I kind of figure they could merge together and then attack. And I have, how many hit points? I have 3, 5, 7. So even if they do a good round of combat and get like 3 to 4 hits, um, Gandalf is still pretty safe, and I can just kind of do a fighting retreat to Minas Tirith. And then if it goes well, then I can stick around in Rohan and cause a lot of problems. Yeah, they merge up, so that's a big army. Um, at this time, I'm, I don't really want to fight, but I will if I need to. And again, they're not getting the Witch King. I don't know if they had the option this turn. I don't think that they had the option. I think they didn't roll a muster. Yeah, they didn't roll a muster. I didn't note that. Oh, that sucks. The Witch King might have made a difference here. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's unfortunate for them. They're gonna stay at pretty low dice. I'm moving in. I don't want to be stuck in Moria. I'm willing to just rush through Moria to deal with it, and I'll take the corruption I take. And they reroll, and I miss, so that's lucky. After a really bad Holland move, the Moria move at least was safe. They attack fold. I'm shining. It's only one Nazgul, but I want to reduce their number of hits as much as possible. Because I'm thinking I might have to deal with 2 rounds of combat. So what I'm probably going to do with these guys, I'd like to stick around in Rohan, but what I'm probably going to do is retreat to Durodain and then either hybrid move or retreat into Minas Tirith. Minas Tirith gets reinforced. I have guards of the Citadel. Gandalf should hold that forever. Makes sense. I'm shining. They play card. They play Onslaught, so they're trying to deal a bunch of damage to me. That makes sense. And they roll 3 6s. That hurts a lot. I roll 1. Not good. And then they onslaught 4 and get 3 hits. So I had 7 HP and I just took 6 damage in 1 combat. Gandalf is barely alive. They're asking if Gandalf activates. Gondor, he doesn't. And they move an elite into Western Net. I would be tempted to move the whole army in, because right now I'm kind of faced with a difficult choice, right? If they have the whole army adjacent, and they happen to have Ringwraiths abroad, they could kill Gandalf right here and now, right? So I'd be really tempted to use a ring to hide in Minas Tirith. Because, man, that's scary. By moving in only 1 elite, it kind of suggests to me that they in fact do not have Ringwraiths abroad, and it means I don't have to be worried about Gandalf at all. I play Celeborns. Okay, so yeah, and the other reason I would play Celeborns here is just to get a scouts, maybe. But Rohan did not go how I wanted. They did send the guys down from Dol Guldur, so that was a nice move. That really stemmed the bleeding from what could have potentially been a huge problem, and instead, Rohan is limping into Minas Tirith. This is not quite the glorious Path of the Woses that is supposed to happen. And they play Balrog, very nice. Balrog is a scary card in this situation. It's going to hit me going into Dimril, and it might reveal me. So that's not good. So, they lost Saruman turn 2. Brutal stuff. But now they've secured Rohan, and they're going to hurt me with corruption. So this game is moving along for them. Even though, obviously that's not the start of the game you want to see. I get Athelas. I'm very happy to see Athelas, and Book of Mizarble. I'm very happy to see Book of Mizarble. If I were able to pick which 2 cards to draw from the deck, it might be those 2. That's a really good combination of cards. Book of Mizarble, obviously I can get the Dwarves to war, move Gandalf if I need to, and then Athelas, Fellowship's hurt. Let's heal him up. I reveal, not reveal, I declare they're going to get their shot with Balrog, and it's 9. So that's lucky for me. So, when I got revealed into Moria, it looked horrible for the Fellowship, and now it's improving a lot. So that's nice. Okay, they're allocating it. They roll another, and now they get their muster. So now they can get the Witch King, and I get this roll. In many circumstances, this would be a bad roll. But I have a lot I can do with my musters, so I'm not horribly upset. I'm gonna make my way into Minas Tirith. I'm gonna be able to play Book of Mazarbel. Um, I can prep either Gondor. I can start mustering the dwarves. The only thing is, I'd really like one movement so I can just hide in Lorien. Hiding in Lorien will help me a lot. So I play Book of Mazarbel straight away. They say I fucking see. Yeah. Um, I move directly into Ered the Ween. I abandon the Rohan guy. I might walk him in at some point anyway, but right now he's kind of defending Minas Tirith by just being a tripwire. Um, and the dwarves go straight to war. So, Dew is now looking great. Um, they got Rohan, but Gondor is not going to be easy. How are they going to take Minas Tirith? I have Rohan helping a little. They have armies around, but I have guards and Faramir's. You can probably take Dol Amroth. But Lorien is also pretty well defended. Balrog is come and gone. So these armies are just not that big. So I'm feeling pretty good. This is going to be a long game in my mind at this point. They go to Minas Morgul and Eastamnet. So I think at this point they're either planning on crushing Minas Tirith or going up to Lorien. It could be worth just going for Minas Tirith. It's going to be a painful slog, but maybe if you can kill Gandalf, that's really good. I don't think I'm going to run away with Gandalf. I think I'm happy to get into a long siege with Gandalf. Oh, interesting. So I moved the Rohan regular in. I don't want them to just be picked off. And I moved some dwarves out. Interesting. I moved them out to Dale as like a preemptive measure. Okay, I'm being aggressive with the dwarves. Very nice. They move like this, so they are not going for Minas Tirith this stack. And at this point, I think Minas Tirith is never going to fall because they could go for this. I'll hit them with Faramir's. I'll run away. They'll attack. I'll reinforce with guards. Like this feels like a hold. Gandalf can stay there. He's safe. Lorien, on the other hand, it's gonna be tricky. Um, they do have something of an army, but I have this big force, so I feel pretty good about Lorien. And I'll speed up a little bit. I think I'm going a bit slow. I get another dwarf. They attack Lorien. They just want to put it under siege. I get the elves closer, and then I recruit regulars and leaders. So I am just buffing up the elven force pool. They haven't gotten Witch King yet, so my nations aren't active. So that's actually the only place I can muster right now. So why not? Let's get the dwarves going. They say, what is happening there? And I say, I'm mustering, in case they weren't aware. Now they move out to Mornon, so they're sending their armies out in Mordor, and I get another dwarf. So I think they were delaying Witch King to prevent activating of nations, prevent me potentially pre-mustering Gondor. But then they don't muster the Witch King. And this is really surprising to me. I talk about it with them a little later in the game, and they just talk about wanting to contain me and not deal with problems. I I think you should just get the Witch King. That's my opinion on the situation. The Witch King is really good. He does a lot of work for you. Um, and in this case, he would help you actually take Lorien. You could slowly grind it down, and then I don't have a spot to heal. So that's I don't agree. Um, but it is nice to muster up more guys. Um, Yeah, too early for Witch King. They're scared of Gondor. It does activate Gondor. So I think probably it would make the attack on Gondor a little slower. I don't know. The thing is, they're probably just going to go through Osgiliath, and then I get activated anyway. So I'm not convinced. I get Thranduils? What do you chuck here? That's a really interesting decision. I have Athelas, which is huge for the Fellowship. I have Guards of the Citadel and Faramir's, which protect Gandalf. I have Elven Rope, um, and Corruption's not been doing too well. I have Bombadil and Thranduil. That's tough. I think you probably chuck either Bombadil or Elven Rope. Elven Rope is a little sad to chuck, but it's pretty early, and I got other things to do with my dice. I chucked Thranduil. Oh, that's fun. Okay, I'm thinking the dwarves are going to defend Woodland Realm. I don't need Thranduil. That's crazy. Okay, but if I'm prioritizing cards that I can play in combat, like Advantageous Position will probably be very useful in Lorien. They'll probably play Devilry. Um, and I want to just play Corruption cards to heal the Fellowship. Okay. I don't know if I'd do that right now. I think I might discard Elven Rope. That was pretty bold. I play Athelas. I want to play it before moving in case I get a 3 and I'm tempted to play a random or whatever. I just want this done. And I get 1 healing. No, Strider gets 1. Okay, so I'm sad about that. What are they up to? They play Threats and Promises. So I guess that's why they're not getting the Witch King. I just don't think it's worth it. I mean, you could have another die right now. You could be better at taking Lorien. It's preventing me from preparing Gondor, and I guess they don't know I have cards like Guards and Faramir's, but the game is going on pretty long. It's not crazy I'm going to draw reinforcement cards. And I don't have that many musters anyway. So I'm not convinced. I move and I missed. So I think I am going to heal in Lorien. And, if they had the Witch King and Lorien was almost dead, I don't know if I'd be able to heal in Lorien. But they're taking it pretty slow. It doesn't really seem like this is going to fall anytime soon. And I have a companion there, and I already reinforced it with Celeborn's. Power Too Great is still out there. Let's hang out in Lorien. They move to Fold and North Ithilien, so they're collapsing on Gondor. Okay, not Fold. They move to Moranon. Might go to South Ithilien if you're going to go to Moranon, because then you can do this. But I guess maybe this guy's going to go north. Okay. Nope, they're thinking. They move West Rondor. Yeah, West Rondor makes sense, too. They don't have them to war yet, but it kind of restricts my movement. And I play Faramir's. Perfect Faramir's. And I miss. Whenever I play Faramir's and miss, I always remind Faramir that Boromir would have hit. Because he would have. You loser. They're going around. Okay. And that is ultimately... I should activate Gondor here. I don't really think it matters, but I really should. Ultimately, I guess that's the whole point of Threats and Promises and not getting the Witch King and everything they were doing. They're like, I'm going to go around Minas Tirith and take it when it's understocked. But the truth of the matter is, this is not a bad defense of Minas Tirith. I could still have guards out there. I'm perfectly happy for them to do this. I muster more dwarves. So why not? They have Threats and Promises out there. I can't prepare anyone else, except for the elves. Why not just make the dwarves go insane? A counter argument, I could muster Gondor once. They should be active at this point because they went into Druedain. So then when they besiege Minas Tirith, I can start mustering into Lamroth. So that's probably a better move, but I'm going to get all my dwarves out here. I'm going to have them well positioned. They're going to defend all ado, maybe go on the offense. Um, and it's hard to argue as free people. You have to spend so many of your dice inefficiently. Just prepping your nations to war, getting ready, doing this, doing that, running around, responding to shadow. It's hard to argue with the value of just being able to spend a die and get more units on the board. Because how the hell are they going to deal with Do now? Do is just crazy. It's gone nuts. Yep, so they're preparing more. So they are really going to bring the hammer down on Gondor. That's the plan. It's not a bad plan. I feel like you want the Witch King for it. I get Imrahil. Oh, happy to see Imrahil. I'm getting all of the Gondor cards, which is very nice. Mirror of Galadriel is funny because I'm going to go into Lorien. Ha! That'll be fun. I wonder if I'm going to play it. I'm probably going to play it. Okay. I sit in Lorien to heal. Declare in Lorien. Very nice. Corruption goes, oh, they don't like it. Yeah, I think you could plausibly skip it. If I were to go for a more traditional corruption game at this point, I think I'd want to skip Lorien. Because if I'm moving, I could just move. I'm doing okay on corruption at 3. But I think the truth is they're just really slow, and I have military threats from the dwarves. So I'm just going to heal off all my corruption. I'm going to play Mirror of Galadriel, and I'm going to see what kind of shenanigans I can cause. Yep, now I notice Gondor should be active, but threats and promises doesn't go away. That is correct. Okay, and I roll this. So, man, I don't really want a lot of movement right now, but this is interesting. I could play Mirror of Galadriel and turn one of these into a will, and then heal the Fellowship, incidentally. Do something with the will and maybe start moving. That's not crazy. Yep, I played Mirror. That's fun. And there's no Day Without Dawn possible because they don't have the Southruns to war. So this is how often you get to do that. That's great. Now they're mustering the Southruns, and I moved the Fellowship. Right. So I'm thinking, if what am I gonna do with this character die? I could maybe move more guys into Dale or something. But I think I had my fun in Lorien. I'm protected from cards now, and I got to heal twice from stopping there, which is pretty good. So I'm just gonna get it moving. And they hit me, and I'm sad. But I get Gimli. Gimli's a pretty good hit here. I wonder if I could have just taken the damage and then redeclared in Lorien. That's probably too silly. But yeah, the Fellowship is not having a fun time. They do have 4 dice on me right now. But I am going to stay in Lorien because it's pretty safe in Lorien. They put Minas Tirith under siege. Threats and Promises goes away for good. I put out Power of Tom Bombadil. That's interesting. Kind of defending the Shire, and I'm kind of thinking about the North to war. I've gotten all my dwarves. Well, I still have an elite, so I'll put them in Erebor. If I can get the North to war now, then I can start mustering them up too, and then they can join with the leftover dwarves, and we can go take a stronghold or 2. They get the Southrons and Easterlings to war. I muster again in Erebor. And I don't care. Well, first of all, they can't even play Day Without Dawn, but I'm fine with them. If they want to spend Day Without Dawn now, then I'm super happy. Because then I don't lose my dice for later. They attack Pelargir. Okay. And they get a hit, and I get a hit. Gondor goes to war. Oh, that is not... Okay, so they ring race Arbrodded to Pelargir. And that's good in some ways. That gets you closer to Dol Amroth. They clearly want to rush Dol Amroth. But that puts Gondor to war. And I think I was thinking this entire turn. I remember now. I'm thinking this entire turn. They have mostly abandoned Rohan. And this army in Osgiliath is not needed to defend Minas Tirith. So I was thinking they would attack me in Osgiliath and I would retreat to Druidain, but this works too. I'm going to just move to Druidain. And now I don't have a scouts. They probably think I have a scouts with this behavior, but I don't. If they attack me though, I'll probably just play like a heroic death and then retreat into Eastonnet. And I have a clear shot at Helm's Deep. There's nothing around there. Like nothing. And I should get the drop on this guy. If they had an army move, this guy could go to Westamnet, and then I'd go to Fold, and then they would get into Helm's Deep. But because they don't have an army move, and they just played a ring race, they're still not getting the Witch King. They need to get the Witch King. There's no way for this guy to get moving. So these guys are gonna make, as long as they don't get wiped out by this army, they're gonna make Helm's Deep in time. Yeah, this is a great play. And yeah, look at that. That's a nice army in hanging out in Dale. I sent another elite. Look at that army. Look at that army. That's without the North regular, it's a 2-3-3. I kind of I guess the dwarves a little weak, but I can move these guys into Erebor, so that's a 2-2, which is probably going to hold against the Easterlings. Maybe I can get the North to war. Yeah, this is aggressive. This is very aggressive. They're wondering if I have scouts. Yeah, if I have scouts, and I've drawn, what, 7 cards, and there's 3 scouts in the deck, and I haven't played a scouts yet. So if I had a scouts and they attacked Druidine, I would scouts to Eastonnet, and then I would get like the super drop, right? I could just move directly into Westonnet, and there's Helm's Deep is going to be a huge problem. And by the way, I still have all these Rohirrim. So this army, if it can get to Helm's Deep, and especially if they don't get a lot of musters, I can just remuster, and now Helm's Deep is off the table. So yeah, they really needed to contain this army. Maybe leave a guy in Druidain. But I could have just killed the guy in Druidain too. So I'm not. Maybe they just needed to attack Osgiliath first before Minas Tirith. That probably could have solved a lot of issues. I would have gone to Pelargir. That would have been annoying, but it's probably safer. They decide to go for Dalamroth. Yeah, that makes sense to me. If I have a scouts, attacking me at Druidain is just helping me, and it's a problem. So they're going to just take Dalamroth. It's 3 points, right? I might be retaking Helm's Deep, but if I don't muster in Dalamroth, then it's a net loss for me. It's not really, because this might fall anyway, and this is going to present a ton of complications to them. But this is a good plan, I think. Great Company and through Dana Knight. I wish I had a companion with this army. That would be awesome. They kill a card. They do an eye. I decide to stay in Lorien. There's a few ways I could handle that. If I could get out of rerolls, but right away, part of my thinking here is I might not even move this turn, and if I do move, it's not going to be towards the end of the turn, so they can just get rerolls on me anyway. In the meantime, I'm completely safe in Lorien from most cards, so I'm happy to stay here, endure the rerolls, but have some safety. And I roll this. Not really what I wanted. But this should be good. This should be enough, right? I actually, okay, this is funny. I don't know. Oh, no, I do know. They can't. they cannot move into Westernnet and Helm's Deep because all they have is an army movement. So this army, even though I don't need to race it, there's no need. And this is just a consequence of the lack of dice that they've had this whole game. They really needed to get the Witch King after they lost Saruman. And now, this is really painful. So I do that. And now, what do? They just put Dol Amroth under siege. Oh, I'm moving. And not only am I moving, look at this. I move out the dwarves. They're not going for Dew anytime soon. And if they are, I might be able to get the North to war. I'm gonna go take Dol Guldur. That's my plan. They don't have any musters. So unless they have, right now, they have Orcs Multiplying again, or Pits of Mordor, and I can check discarded cards. They haven't played either. Oh no, they have played Orcs Multiplying again. So unless they have Pits of Mordor, there is no way for them to save Dol Guldur. Pretty good. That is sus. I think it's more than sus, my friend. I think it is, there should be alarm bells. They play Shadow is Moving. Oh, that's a cool card. Oh, they should have done that before. Because if they'd moved into Westernnet, then they could have blocked me. So yeah, I would have recommended that before. But I just move into Westernnet. There's no stopping me now. They move into Orthanc. I think they're worried about me taking Orthanc. That's not crazy. You could look at it from the perspective of, like, this one guy isn't going to stop these guys anyway. So, protect Orthanc, muster up, retake it at a later time. I move the Fellowship. This is so disrespectful of me. Because, look, they actually can't do anything about Helm's Deep. So there's no rush. And I don't actually need to take it right now. Oh my god. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I moved the Fellowship, and I'm safe. And they play Orc Patrol, but they can't. They're chasing me. And I play Imrahil. So yeah, I've done this work, but I didn't get the dice to take Helm's Deep. So I'm just gonna wait and then roll the dice next turn. That is funny. Is it better to give a ring here? Or give up a movement? I don't know. I think this is probably better. It's just kind of funny that I've done all this work and I'm just sitting in Westernnet. If they had somehow found a way to threaten reinforcing Helm's Deep, I would have spent the ring. But they didn't. We're on to next turn, and I get to play Imrahil. So these Gondor strongholds are pretty tough. There's no guarantee they're going to take any of these strongholds anytime soon, and I'm about to retake Helm's Deep, and the dwarves are on the move. So I'm feeling pretty good here. I get Kyrdan ships. That's crazy. But the elves still aren't as war. That's kind of funny. They besieged Lorien, but they haven't done any other work towards the elves. And I haven't bothered getting them to war. I'm a little scared of getting everybody to war because then they could get Mouth, and that would certainly make up for the loss of Saruman. But and I have everybody to war I need to. If this starts looking scary, maybe there's something I can do about that. Yeah, they could probably put some pressure on me here. They just gotta have the time. Right now, they haven't had the time to do anything about that. I roll this. I start with my will, because I don't want to lose it today without Dawn, and I take out Helm's Deep. And has there ever been a more satisfying move? Look, in one hybrid move, I get right next to a Shadow Stronghold I'm probably going to be able to take, and I retake Free People's Stronghold. So, I think Faramir, I talked shit about you after missing in North Affiliate, but look at you now. Who's laughing now, right? That's crazy. Let's see. They move into fold. I attacked Golder with a character die. I think what I'm thinking here is I want to besiege Golder, and I probably want to muster an elite in Helm's Deep because they can besiege me this turn. So I'm gonna actually use the character die to do it, and I'm not gonna move. That seems like a good trade-off. I mean, I'm losing out on moving the Fellowship, but they have 3 eyes anyway, and I'm taking 2 of my 4 victory points I need. And if I can take Dol Guldur with this army, things are looking up. I besiege them, they move out, and oh no, I just attacked Dol Guldur. So I'm saying, okay, I'm going to give up on Helm's Deep. I don't know. Maybe it's better to just muster. They could have Pits of Mordor, but there's no real hurry, is there? Unless they have Pits of Mordor. But I can attack first thing next turn. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's better to muster. But I attack. Oh, okay. No, I think through the exact same thing, and I decided to just muster Rohan Elite. Yeah, because now this army has 6 HP to their 10. They're going to need to muster and spend a bunch of resources to retake it. So it seems good to me. They go for Helm's Deep, and I just spend a ring because I just want to get it done. Yeah, I can see that. I'm loath to give Shadow rings, but on the other hand, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I want to move my military along. And I play Charge, and I get a hit with Charge. So I'm giving up Círdan's Ships, which is a really good card, but I'm not planning on getting the Elves to war. And, I just want to clear out my hand, because I probably have to draw a card. Okay? They try and roll back, but they can't even do that. And look at Dol Guldur. A 2/3/3. This is better defended than most Free People strongholds. So at this point, for Shadow to retake Dol Guldur, they're going to have to devote. They're probably going to have to peel off armies from Lorien and Minas Tirith, maybe from here too, to just go kill it. So at this point, this feels pretty secure. So I have my 2 points. I need 2 more. Halfway there. Okay, they get the Witch King. Yeah, I think they finally give up the idea of holding off on him. I probably would have done it sooner. I just think they've been so deficient on dice this whole game that they needed to get him. But it's better late than never, right? They get the Witch King, and I draw a character card. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really good for me to do. I can play guards to stock up Minas Tirith, but that doesn't really matter that much. I can play Eagles Are Coming. That's kind of funny. I have cards I want to chuck, and corruption cards would help me here. End cards would help me here. Companion separating cards to get to Dol Guldur or set up for Dead Men would help me here. So, yeah, character card makes sense. And I get a whole bunch of stuff. I finally get a Scouts after all this time. And I have 2 Brave Stands and a Mighty Attack. So what on earth do you discard here? I think it's probably too preemptive to discard Bilbo's Song. Obviously, I have this Stronghold. It's very nice. But, Corruption, dunking the ring is still a viable win path. So Bilbo's Song, getting rid of it feels like dunking the ring, which I think is not smart. I think if I were to choose, it would probably be Axe and Bow in the Grey Company. Brave stands are nice, but I'm not playing them anytime soon, and I can save one of my Brave stands. Mighty Attack is also nice to take a stronghold. Maybe I just get rid of both Brave stands. I think it's probably between those three, right? Because I want to hold with Guards of the Citadel. I don't want Gandalf to die. Um, Through Dana Knight is obviously huge for any military stuff. That's probably how I'm going to win the game if I end up going military. Bilbo's Song is huge for corruption. Scouts is just super playable, especially like up here. These guys could scouts into Erebor, and then Erebor is still tough. Um, Heroic Death is also great for military stuff. Let's see. I get rid of Mighty Attack and the Great Company. Yeah, I want to save one Brave Stand, and who knows if I'm going to send out Boromir at some point. Whereas Great Company, the card effect, I just don't care about. Yeah, those are the two cards whose cards effects I think are the most useless. Even though Brave Stands and Mighty Attacks can be nice. They now have a decent number of dice, and I roll a lot of movement. Interesting stuff. So let's take stock of the board situation here. They are at 2 points, Polargear and Edoras, and they do have 8 more points under siege. What can they take? Helm's Deep is pretty straightforward. They probably want to muster and bring in some more guys. But they can probably take Helm's Deep like this turn. Everything else is hard. I'd probably prioritize Dol Amroth because there's no Gandalf. Or you bring everything and you try and kill Gandalf. Yeah, I don't know. A Shadow, it's just so tough. And what do you do about Dol Guldur? One other possibility, which I would strongly consider, is saving your corruption cards, giving up on military, and sending everything to crush Dol Guldur. Because if you can retake Dol Guldur, then my whole dwarven plan is done. Rohan is subdued, Gondor is subdued. Nobody else is even to war. Now, eventually, I can get the North to war, and they'll do something. But you've kind of restricted the problems you have to deal with. And in the meantime, you save, you eventually get a reveal, you play your fellowship cards, you kill the fellowship, and you just play a corruption game. And we go to turn 15 or whatever. You play all your corruption cards out. I'm playing my healing cards out, and we see the Mordor Trek. I think that's probably your best bet as Shadow here. If you just let me sit in Dol Guldur, there's probably eventually going to be an opportunity for me to take another stronghold. So I think at this point you probably want to crush Helm's Deep because you don't want the Rohirrim mustering up again. But I would honestly completely abandon the Siege of Lorien, maybe leave one orc behind, just so you're sitting on the Fellowship still. And because they can't sortie because they're not at war, and just send the Eastern Army, take out Dol Guldur, do it slowly, do it over the next 2 turns, and play a corruption game. You're never going to win military if you do that. You're basically giving up on military entirely, which is not good. But I wonder how quickly they're going to be able to win military anyway. The alternative is just muster and try and do this, right? You get Helm's Deep, should be doable. You have some reinforcements nearby. Lorien, you can keep mustering and going for. Maybe you go for Erebor, and you eventually get Corsairs to reinforce Dol Amroth. That just feels very risky, because if the circumstances align in the next few turns, I'm going to be able to win a military victory. And I'm still moving the Fellowship. Now, as for me, I could consider separating companions here to Dol Guldur. I'll talk about this in a minute, because this becomes more important in a second. I could throw Dana Knight to No Man Lands, and then I have 2 dice to attack Mornon with a ring. So I could potentially win this turn if I go all out. One of the problems with this plan is as long as they have any number of attacks, they can always Dimmerald Dale, South Anduin Vale, Dol Guldur, take Dol Guldur. So if I leave Dol Guldur too weak, it could be really counterproductive to my military plan. So what I really want to do is I want to wait for them to have a really bad turn. Is this a really bad turn? Maybe. They only have 3 attacks, but they still have their ring. And they could have, there's any number of cards that could help them in attacking Dol Guldur, right? They could have Shadow Lengthen, Shadows Gather to get to Dimmerald Dale. They could have Black Captain Commands. They could have Gronded Fighting Urukai. So I feel like it's too early to make my play. And I move the Fellowship. And this is a mistake, and I'm going to talk about it in a second. But I get hit. It's a 0 reveal. I'm sad. I get revealed, and they play Lure of the Ring and draw Strider. So that's not good. Let's think about this situation, though. I am upset, and I'm upset that they drew Strider, and they point out that it's a 50-50 chance. And they are 100% correct. It's a 50-50 chance to draw Strider. And I think about it, and I just take 3 corruption. And this is why I take 3 corruption, and I put Strider back in the Fellowship. And part of the reason I take 3 corruption is I'm scared of Morgul Wound. Right? If I don't take Strider, if I kill Strider and then get Morgul Wound, the Fellowship is just so screwed. But the other reason is that I have through a day and a night. Dead Men could be huge here. As I said, Gondor is subdued. Well, if Strider comes in with Dead Men, what armies do they have to stop him? Dead Men could single-handedly win me the game. And I would like Aragorn at some point. I don't know if I'm going to have time to get him. But Strider is so useful as a military companion. And he can do a lot for me winning the game with that win condition. So, moving there was a mistake. What I should have done is separate Strider and Boromir as soon as I take Dol Guldur. Because at that point, corruption becomes a real possibility. And I just want my companions on the map. Right now, all my companions are under siege. So let's get some, Pippin's not, but still. Let's get some companions on the map. That turns on through a day and a night. It turns out in all kinds of possibilities. And it's really good for my game. If the other aspect to it is if these companions are in the Fellowship and I'm not willing to take Strider over 3 damage, what the hell is he doing in the Fellowship? Right? Because he's just a burden at that point. He's not helping Frodo. And same with Boromir. I would have taken Boromir to a 2, but I don't really want to take him to a 2. And I got hit by a 0 reveal. That does not reveal me if I have Gollum. That does not reveal me at all. So, although I'm sad that I drew Strider for the Lure of the Ring, I think it was an entirely preventable problem. I should have just separated him before. And I opened myself up to this play by keeping him in the Fellowship. And I think this is a consequence of this just being a really novel situation. Normally, when I have these kind of military games, I have Aragorn, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm just killing down the Fellowship, and that's that. But Strider is too valuable to even lose for 3 corruption. So I think I just made a big mistake not separating them. And I don't want to beat myself up too much because, again, this is a situation that just doesn't come up very often. Um, we are in a really weird game state where everything has gone on over the board. But corruption just became a big problem, and honestly, if I separated the companions earlier, corruption would be totally fine. I'd be sitting pretty, I wouldn't even get revealed by that tile. I could heal in Minas Tirith if I want to, I build a song. Life would be good. So they play Hill Trolls. That's a good card. So now they might be able to take Helm's Deep without reinforcements. The only problem with that is they're using up Hill Trolls, right? So that's one less reinforcement card they can have and use against me. It's probably the least valuable reinforcement card. Olakai is better. But now they're just a little bit more vulnerable. And I separate Strider and Boromir. So I spent that whole time thinking about what I just talked about. And I decide I'm not going to throw good money out with bad, right? They did their damage. It sucks that my mistake led to me taking 3 damage, but I want these companions on the board doing stuff, and this is the best place for them to be. So Strider and Boromir meet up with the dwarves who take Dol Guldur. Dain is like, "What took you so long?" And they're like, "I don't know. I felt the lure of the ring." And that's that. They attack Helm's Deep. They play Deadly. And they get 5 hits. So Helm's Deep is, I did 3. They press, and they die. So, they spent some good cards on that. They spent Horde from the East, and they spent Hill Trolls, and they took out Helm's Deep. I wanted it to hold out longer, but sometimes you don't get what you want, and they appropriately invested in it to make sure. They're talking about through a day and a night. They say this is a funny exchange. I don't want to give anything away, so they say if you have through a day to night, then the only place you can go is Mornon. But are you a suicidal guy? And I don't respond for several seconds, and I just say, "Are you done with your turn?" And Xxander says yes. I'm not doing anything yet. I think it's too early. I've kind of talked about that before. They have 2 musters and a ring in hand, and they can start gathering here. So definitely, I don't want to play that right now. I just hide the Fellowship, and we talk about taking a break after this turn, and we do, but we're going to finish out the turn first. They play Orc Patrol. So I don't agree with this play. I talked a little bit about the corruption and how it's important to start playing a corruption game, and I think that that's absolutely true. But this is your only ring I gave you, and I am incredibly stingy with my rings. I don't like giving them out ever. I think they're a huge benefit to Shadow to have a ring, and they're using it up to play Orc Patrol. They get a 0 reveal. It takes it out of the pool. That's pretty good for them. But they could just play that at a later time. I don't see the rush. What they really need to do right now, in my opinion, is send an army to sit on Dol Guldur. Take it, yes, that would be nice, but that's a secondary priority. Sitting on it is the number 1 priority because this army, they know I could have through day and a night. They're thinking about that. So yeah, I think that that's the much better play. Or at least just move your military along and save your ring. I would put some guys in Mornon and Barad-dûr and maybe Moria, and just be prepared for Nailbiter. I played Bilbo's Song. Yeah, I don't have any other cards to play, so I'm just using my cards efficiently. There's no reason for that to sit in my hand forever. They play Stormcrow on the Elves. Yeah, and they can because of Mary. They got so sick of Mary, they're going back towards war. Um, and they decide not to play it because I was just going to remove the Elf and Grey Havens, which wouldn't be good for them. Yeah, they don't know what to do. They can't attack any stronghold. So, Xander, I think what you do in this situation is you go after Dol Guldur. Because corruption, you saved Lure of the Ring, you're playing your corruption cards, which I think is smart. I think you should keep drawing corruption cards and keep hurting the Fellowship. And I think you should give up on Lorien and send all of your military effort to sit on Dol Guldur. Because if the Fellowship, if the Free People's military chances is contained like that, then they cannot win a military victory, and they have to primarily rely on the ring with maybe some tricks, which are a lot easier to counter. Um, Free People could still win a ring victory. Um, Certainly, worse corruption situations than this have dunked the ring, but um, military is just way too scary. If you just business as usual, eventually you're gonna get a bad roll, and I'm gonna win the game. Now, what do they do? They recruit some Nazgul. Nazguls are fine. They could probably use more. I mean, this helps their military attack, though. I think regulars are better. Um, and I get the North. So here's my thinking in this situation. I'm cognizant of this whole Dol Guldur plan, and actually, I was pretty vulnerable to it. If they spent their ring instead on attacking, I don't know what I'd do. Maybe I would just scouts and throw a Dain a Knight. Um, and and give up Dol Guldur if they came in, because then they would have a hard time defending it, and then I'm in Mordor. Um, but that's not really as good of a situation for me. So I think that would still be a good play. But my plan now is I'm gonna start mustering the North. I got them one down. I'm gonna get them one more down, and I'm gonna build up a massive army in Dale or Bree or maybe both. And I'm going to start getting ready for try number 2. I don't think you should overextend with one army in a military victory. Free People needs to build up multiple big armies. And they've done a really good job of suppressing Rohan and suppressing Gondor, so I can't build up there. So I'm going to use the North Pool, and I'm going to make a new big army. And let's see what they do. They play Shadows in the Misty Mountains. Yeah, that makes sense. So they have a pretty big army forming. So now I actually like this because now they can go take out Dol Guldur, or they should, in my opinion. So we go into next turn, and what do I ditch? I ditch Brave Stand. Interesting. Might have been useful, but I guess I'm still thinking of corruption. So at this stage in the game, my thinking is, if I roll a bunch of movement and they roll low eyes, I'm just going to move the Fellowship and continue like that. If I roll a bunch of movement and they roll a lot of eyes, I'm going to go win the game because I can just walk with this army, and they won't have a lot of dice to respond. If I roll like a lot of musters, I'm going to get the North ready, and the North is going to power up, and one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to come down, restock Dol Guldur, allowing the dwarves to go south, and kind of like move in. Like you can imagine hybrid moving here while these guys are hybrid moving here, hybrid so on. Or maybe they meet up first. Either way. Or they can just go for Gundabad themselves. I'm thinking that if I do power up the North, they're probably going to start defending Gundabad, in which case that kind of restock plan is the better one. So I kind of have plans for what'll happen regardless. And I think that's important in these kind of games. You gotta be ready for anything. We take a break, we save, we reconnect. This board is insane. It is insane. So this has gone completely crazy. And it all stems back to that turn 2 loss of Saruman, a big battle in Rohan, and then Book of Zarbal. And now this is very precarious for Shadow, because basically right now, if they get a bad roll, they will lose the game. If they roll like 5 eyes and don't have enough attacks, then I can just go for Mordor. So That's really bad for them. Let's see. Let's see what happens, though. They roll this. This is scary for them. Now, if we start counting up attacks, right? They only have 1, 2, and they don't have a ring. So already I'm like, okay, I can win this turn. But let's see. And I get this, which is totally fine to win with. Um, Obviously, I'd like one more attack, but I have through Day and Night for this Palantir, and then the 2 attacks and a ring attack. And then I have a spare move, which I can play first to kind of throw them off. Or, yeah. So I'm just going to wait. I pass. They move everybody into Minas Tirith. So, yeah. This, I think... Again, this is a super novel game state. This is not the sort of thing you normally do. So I by no means am I trashing on my opponent when I say that this is a game-losing mistake. This is just... It's super hard to see this. And hopefully, as we get more Return of the King games, this sort of situation will become more recognizable to people. Certainly, it's becoming more recognizable to me after playing a number of Return of the King games. But you just gave up an attack to move your Nazgul to someplace. They just moved this guy. Yeah, okay, so they're playing around Gandalf. You just gave up a bunch of attacks to move your Nazgul to someplace they aren't needed, basically. Um, and now, even if they have Shadows Gather, attack, they would need like Black Captain commands followed by Fighting Urukai or Grand? Or maybe, could they ring attack? Yeah, they could move, they could do, so it would need like, they would need like 2 out of, they would need to have like 2 out of 4 cards to make it work. Even with a ring. So this is bad. I just muster the North because I don't need that die to complete my my plan. So assuming that they if they use their attack here, I'm just waiting. Because this die, I have through a day and a night, move, ring move. So this die isn't going to be useful to me. If I can use this die to muster the North, first of all, I want to muster the North anyway. I want to eventually get them involved. But if in waiting I can adduce them to spend the attack, then the game is just over. For sure. And I was super happy, and then they decided against it, and they play Grond. So that is one of the cards they could have used to save themselves into a Golder. And yeah, they Grond, but I have Advantageous against Deadly Strife. Advantageous is great here because they can only hit on their combat roll, so it's only going to help me. They get 1 hit. So I reduce. I say you can't stop. They try and stop, but we keep going. I get 2 hits. They get 0. They get 1 hit. I get 1. It is hard. And they don't press. So, yeah, this was always going to be a problem. Now I'm going to play Guards of the Citadel to reinforce. And yeah, even from a military perspective, I think Dol Amroth is the better siege to go for. I don't have any crazy companions here. But, and I've already played Kierden Ships' Combat Effect, but I think it doesn't really matter at this point because I think that they have stretched themselves too thin. And I move out. Oh, and I do like this. This is an interesting little move. So my thinking with this move is maybe I could hybrid move them in and save the day if they start doing funky things. But I mean, what would they need at this point? They would need like Shadow Lengthens. Okay, Shadow Gather, Shadow Lengthens, and then normal move, and then Black Captain commands or Fighting Urkai, and the other one needs to be a ring attack. So they would not be able to muster. Actually, this is relevant because they would not be able to muster to make that happen. They would have to spend all of their dice, have the cards, and a ring. Um, and in that case, I would use a ring to get this guy into Dol Guldur to give myself a chance of holding out. How likely is that? Incredibly unlikely. So that's not going to happen. They muster an elite in Moranon, because they see what's coming. I play through in a day and a night to North Athelion because now Minas Morgul is a weaker target, and they do that. Yeah, I mean it doesn't really make a difference. This is gonna take a stronghold, I think. But I attack into Minas Morgul. They just draw a card. Oh, what am I glad about? Probably Olakai, because Olakai could potentially hold out for the round. If they did Olakai, I might move into Growth. I'm not sure. That's tricky. Um, Minas Morgul. And I play Charge and I miss, but I get 2 hits on the combat roll, which is all I need. So that's the end of the game. So obviously that was crazy. I mean that final siege, even with Oleg High, I think I was pretty favored to get it. I had no dwarven regulars. I mustered all of them, so it would have been somewhat awkward depending on the number of hits that they got. But I'm you know, obviously against 2 regulars, it wasn't going to happen. I do wonder about maybe if they held Hill Trolls. But if they had Hill Trolls, could they have taken Helm's Deep? I don't know. It would have been a lot harder. So there's always trade offs in this game. This was a super weird game. Um, a lot of crazy stuff happens. I much prefer to play this kind of game as free people than a sprint. Um, Shadow was just on the back foot ever since they lost Saruman. I think probably they should have gotten the Witch King earlier, and probably going for Dol Guldur was good. But this was tough, especially as after I retook in Rohan, that completely short circuited their whole military attack. Um, and this is really neat though because I have never seen this before. The dwarves did literally everything. um, Gondor fought well. Gondor liberated Rohan and then died, and held them off. So Gondor was still like the shield for the free people. But Dain heard about what happened in Moria, and he just decided to single-handedly destroy Sauron. So he mustered up this massive army of dwarves. He left some at home, wisely knowing that the Easterlings are around, and then he just moved into Dol Guldur. And Strider and Boromir show up, and Strider's like, "I'm the leader. I'm in charge." And Dain's like, "Okay, kid, whatever." So they move south and they take out Minas Morgul. And Frodo is just faffing about in Western Emondwell, trying to summon up the courage to make it. Dwarves already took everything. So, forget everything I said about how you need 2 armies to do a free people military victory. All you really need are some dwarves with gumption. And these dwarves had a lot of style, a lot of power. Never underestimate Dain. You really shouldn't. He'll make you regret it. And good job to Pippin spreading the news to the dwarves. They wouldn't have known without him. So yeah, good job, kid. Um, yeah, that was a crazy game. Honestly, it was more of like a wild ride than I think I got pretty lucky at various points, to be honest. Especially having that will and having that ent that completely changed the game. Um, so it went pretty well for me overall, and I have nothing to complain about. I think there's an interesting lesson here about what happened with Strider and Boromir. Maybe maybe I could have seen that coming and separated them in advance before moving again. just because Gollum is a better guide than Strider in that situation. But yeah, very interesting game. The elves never got to war. Everyone else got to war. The elves were still sleeping. Um, so a dwarf is worth 100 elves. That's what I always say. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the game. That was my last game versus Xxander. It was a really good matchup. We played two really fun games. Um, kind of sad to be done. Um, that is the downside. You know, you finish your games and then you have to wait for the next round before you can keep going again. Um, I think I had reasonably good luck in both games that helped me clutch it out. And certainly I had an interesting story to tell with these dwarves. I don't know if I'll ever do something like this again. I have to appreciate the dwarves taking 4 points from Shadow on their own, no other help. That's insane. Um, so yeah, my next matchup is against James. They are another great opponent. We played uh, a lot of games. I think all of our games really came down to like the last possible action, um, with a couple dice rolls deciding the outcome. So those were very good games too. So I'm excited to show those. Um, but yeah, until next time, good luck with the tournament, everyone, and have a good day.